Hey guys, and welcome back to my Star Wars The Clone Wars vlog series. That's just what I'm gonna call it. This is now looking at Season 1, Episode 2, Rising Malevolence. Remember, I am watching it via the Disney Plus playlist, via Disney Plus. I know it's not in the air order, which really explains why there feels like there's a bit of disjointment already in this episode. Because of course I know that the movie, the Clone Wars movie, came out before the series, so we already knew kind of who Ahsoka was, you know, all that. But this is the first official episode on Disney Plus where you first meet Anakin, Ahsoka, and then Plo Koon and a bunch of other characters. But already, one thing I forgot to talk about in my review of episode 1, Ambush, was that again, it just speaks to how the show originally started as being very targeted towards kids, with how at the start of every episode, there's this cheesy, like, oh, last time on da da da, you know, like this, like, cheesy, like, sci fi announcer kind of like. I know how I want to describe the voice and the way that the um, voiceover is being used, but I can't put my finger on where I've heard something like this. But you know, it's like kind of giving a play by play, kind of like what's going on in the galaxy during the war, and it, it's really cheesy. Like, I hope that they either A, got rid of it as the show went on, or B, made it a little less cringy, because this is one of many things that's already been like, well, I'm not impressed by the show yet. And so in Rising Malevolence, you know, there's a new ion weapon that the Separatists have been using, and of course, the ion weapon ship itself is being commanded by Count Dooku and General Grievous. And this is the first time I see General Grievous in the show. And it seems to me that they had the exact same voice with the exact same voice tweaking done as in Revenge of the Sith. He sounds exactly like Grievous in the movie, which is like, okay, cool. If they did that, then that just makes continuity. I mean, Genndy Tartakovsky's Grievous was a complete badass, but his voice was, you know, it was sinister. It was cool in its own way. Um, but Revenge of the Sith and now the Clone Wars Grievous voice is also fine. And it's always going to bother me whenever we see Grievous without his cape, because he looks more like a complete character with the cape. I've even had drawn a bunch of fan art of Grievous back in the day, and I always drew him with his cape because it just looks cool. But yeah, we are introduced to Anakin and Ahsoka. Actually, okay, the synopsis of this episode is: an attack by a devastating new separatist weapon leaves Jedi Master Plo Koon and his clone troopers struggling to survive until Anakin and Ahsoka can find them. Now, alright, my impression of Ahsoka from the movie was bad. It left a bitter taste in my mouth, and I absolutely refuse to get to know her. In this episode, you know, she's just whatever. I mean, she's a kid, she is a young Padawan, whatever. She wants to prove herself, she wants to speak her mind, whatever, you know, like, that's all been said and done. Like, you just have to, like, if you were like me and you grew up reading, what was it called? Was it like Jedi Apprentice or something like that? The book series that was about Obi-Wan as a Padawan to Qui-Gon. Um, like if you grew up reading those books or ingesting any other kind of Star Wars content before this that involved Padawans, you'd know that it's like, yeah, this behavior is pretty standard. Um, and the few notes I wrote, like, Plo Koon, He never spoke in the movies. This episode was the first time I ever heard a voice being given to him. I mean, you could play as Plo Koon in Jedi Power Battles. He was a character you could unlock later on, and of course, he never spoke there. Um, that was kind of my first real big introduction to Plo Koon was Jedi Power Battles, as him being a exclusive character that you could unlock. And I mean, his voice in this show, it's okay. It's not really what I always imagined him sounding like. I did have Plo Koon in my Star Wars fan fiction. I don't remember what voice I kind of attributed in my mind, but you got kind of like a little effect because of his like face mask, his breathing apparatus. But otherwise, it's like, the voice isn't really doing too much to me. It's too much for me. It's whatever. And like, yeah, I can tell that this episode was not supposed to be the second episode in the series, like when it aired, because it's like, it feels like more has gone on in the background, and that Anakin and Ahsoka have not gotten the proper introduction that they probably did in the show's actual first episode, whatever that actually was. Um, and I still have issues believing that Anakin ever was a Padawan, was a master. That he had a Padawan. That still rubs me the wrong way. And so it kind of gave me like a gleeful irony when like Anakin's telling her like speak only when spoken to, and I'm like, yeah, hypocrite, when have you ever done that? Like, he tells her things that he himself has never done. And then when it's like, she suggests looking for survivors, and he snaps at her, and it's like, keeps calling her young Padawan, whoever. It just sounds like he is aping how Obi-Wan has treated him. As seen in, of course, Attack of the Clones and all that. So, he's just kind of treating her the way he always was treated. Like, that's his only real experience, I guess. So he's a bit of a hypocrite. And then he goes off and breaks the rules and goes and looks for survivors anyway, and just tells Ahsoka, oh, but the way you said it was wrong. But he never explains to her what she did that was wrong. Like, I don't think she brought up the idea to the council and Palpatine and all that in that message, like, wrongly. I just think Anakin is being maybe just like, oh, I would have wanted to do that idea. So like, I don't know. I'm not really feeling it. I mean, I can tell they're both like troublemakers, like Yoda and Mace Windu and Obi-Wan in this episode mention that they're both troublemakers together, and it's like, that's not gonna help Anakin. He already has been a bit of a delinquent historically, so it's like, I don't know. All I know is that Anakin still falls to the dark side, obviously loses a Padawan because Ahsoka does not exist in Revenge of the Sith at all, in any way, shape, or form, and he still falls to the dark side, and it's just like, well, whatever, who cares? He falls to the dark side. We saw the movies. Who cares about his development from that point on? Because it's all going to be for absolutely nothing. Nothing's going to change about him because he's going to fall to the dark side and become Darth Vader anyway. I don't know. It just feels pointless to me to put this much effort into something that's already predestined. That's why trying to explain things in such detail between events where it's like, no, we already know how this ends. Why does any of this filler help us, But again, me being a bitter, jaded old Star Wars fan, I guess. What else? Oh, and speaking of voices, like, Mace, the guy who does Mace Windu's voice, I don't know, I wasn't watching the credits, but if it's not Samuel Jackson, they're doing a very good Samuel Jackson impression. Like, he at least sounds good. Obi-Wan's voice actor sounds good too. And yeah, it's like, yet again, we have a group of 3 clone troopers. It's always 3. It's always been 3 in these 2 episodes. And And I don't know if one of the clone troopers decided to actually dye his hair and his eyebrows white, or if he is a little older than the other clone troopers. It's not explained. Another guy shaved part of his hair and dyed it red or whatever, and the other one looks completely normal. Like, they all have unique looks, but it's like, you have gray hair and gray eyebrows. I don't know if that's dyed. I think, are you older than the rest? Were you one of the first batches or something? I have no idea. There's not any real explanation done with, like, it's just like, change their hair color, and they'll look different. And they're like in this escape pod, and then it's like the pod hunter comes out, and you think it's going to be something absolutely terrifying, but it's just a thing that grabs the pod, and then a group of absolutely normal battle droids comes out and takes laser saws and just opens the front window. Which, I mean, that's a terrifying way to die, you know? Like, that idea is creepy. With no way to fight back or anything, but the fact that it's just a group of regular ass battle droids with just laser saws, really? That immediately makes it less scary. Like, oh, hunter, and it's like, nope, just a clamp and then regular ass battle droids. It's like, that just took the intensity completely out of that concept. Great job, writers. Again, just trying to, I mean, yeah, they show clone troopers coming out of the opened hatches, like, dying, you know? Like, that's pretty intense for probably kids to be watching it, but then it's like, oh, but look, it's just a group of battle droids. They're goofy. They're evilly goofy. And then, like, at the end, when they do find Plo Koon and those clone troopers and rescue them, they get detected because of the medical droid, and they fire the ion cannon at their little ship, and it's just this, like, disc of, like, electricity that's coming, and in classic fashion, they insist on keep moving forward. I mean, I know I want to scream, go to the sides, but I know they're trying to get out the debris field so that they can then jump to, so they can jump. But it just seemed so silly that it's like, just go to the sides, try to get to the side of it, and then work your way out the debris field, and then jump to hyperspace. It's just they shoot it, and I doubt that they'd be able to control how it moves, and it's just like, it looked so easy to avoid. Like, again, that's another thing that just took the intensity out of the idea. I mean, like, yeah, being able to take shields and everything else completely offline is a big deal, but if you're a small ship, you'd be able to avoid that. It's not like in Indiana Jones where the boulder's coming and Indy literally has nowhere else to go but forward because it's a tunnel. That's a moment where that trope works because the character literally has no other choice. But yeah, so those are my thoughts about episode 2, Rising Malevolence. So it's like, and apparently Ahsoka knew Plo Koon because Plo Koon found her and brought her to the temple. Okay, trying to make this original character have a tie to a pre-existing named character. Great. Way to shoehorn her in, I guess. Anyway, it's gonna take me a really long time to warm up to Ahsoka and her pure existence. So bear with me on that. I'm still not really wanting to get to know her because I want to pretend she doesn't exist because I want to pretend that Anakin never had a Padawan. But I don't know. Maybe you guys will find it fun to see me suffer through my preconceptions and my rigid whatever, I don't know. Maybe you'll enjoy this. So yeah, way shorter vlog today because I wasn't going into, because my first episode was all about me first introducing where I was coming from and my experience with the Clone Wars era of content and all that. So it was so that was longer. This is like half the length, I'm sure, but you know, if the episodes only need like a 15-minute chat, then that is perfectly fine. It means that these will be really easy to make and really easy to just pop on YouTube. And I will keep going with my viewing of season 1. And I will catch you in the next one.